Hey everybody, this is Perch, and if you've been listening to this channel or just kind of looking at comic number news sites that are not kind of the traditional sources, you probably are aware that manga is growing significantly right now in the West. And when I say, by the way, I guess this is an important disclaimer because whenever I do videos like this one, people will come in and say things like, "I don't like manga." It's like that's cool. You don't have to, and everything has an established taste, and even if something is selling like gangbusters, it doesn't mean you have to like it. Just like if something is not selling at all, you can still like it. I mean, we're all there, right? I mean, I don't need to. I can. We're all on the same page, right? So we don't need to have that argument again, right? I hope. I don't know. I always wonder how many people just read the video title. They don't actually watch the video because sometimes the comments come in. It's like, I don't know. I talk about that in like the first 20 seconds. How'd you miss that? I don't know. My nice calming voice, it lulls people into a sense of lethargy, and they forget what I said. I think that's what's going. Anyway, regardless, manga is doing very well in the U.S. I don't have historical data to prove or disprove, but I believe manga is probably at its highest point that it's been in the U.S. It's had spikes in the past, about 10 years ago or so. There was there's a big push. There's always these moments when manga kind of resurfaces, but right now, a number of different manga titles are finding success. And in a weird way, manga is doing what the Western, and this is really what the video is about, what the Western comics kind of want to be doing, which is they are managing to get a bunch of different genres and different stories popular simultaneously. So they've got some superhero stuff, they've got some romance stuff, they've got some more occult kind of demon fighting stuff. They've got certainly their share of LGBTQ type material. They've got a bunch of different series that are all doing relatively well right now, all at once. So the question becomes, what can Western comics learn from this? Because I think only a real fool, and one of these real fools who was recently employed by DC was making some comments about this just publicly. It's always amazing to me, by the way, when people complain about people coming at them, but then they post really stupid things, and it's like your worst enemy is you, pal. It's you're the cause of your own misery. At any rate, there's manga is not this current wave that we're seeing is not a flash in the pan. It's not going to disappear in 2 years. It's establishing an audience, and I think. Why do I say that? Well, because the numbers are growing year after year, and if you look at new volumes, what you're seeing, and this is a huge indicator, and just trust me what I'm about to say, this is a really important thing to remember. If you want to track, if you've got a momentary kind of blip, or you've got an established audience, you need to look at the volume 2, 3, and 4 when trades or books come out, and notice the fall. Like, did a lot of people come in issue 1, and what happened to issue 2? And when volume 2 or volume 3 comes out, what then happened to volume 1? And what you're seeing with a lot of manga is you see like a version, an edition come out, it sells really well. You see the second version come out and it sells almost the same amount, maybe a slight decline, but really close, like 90% of the first one. And at the same time, you then see a 10 to 20% boost in the first one. If you've been watching the numbers videos, if you look at Saga and how the trades were behaving, that's a sign of a book, a property that's picking up readers as it goes. That's a good sustainable audience. That's not that's not a flash in the pan type product. Anything that is going to be kind of temporarily popular tends to sell really well for the first issue, but nothing for the ones after it. That's just the nature of, we've got 50 years worth of data to show that that's what curves look like. And manga right now, you're seeing a very healthy sustainment of people buying these books, and you're seeing return interest to the first issue. So it's growing, is my point. So what are things that Western comic publishers can learn from all this? Well, I think there's a number of ones. Number one, print quality and paper and that kind of stuff is not as big a deal as people think. Right now, manga is succeeding usually with lower quality print. And, for that matter, in some cases, very poor translation or some really wacky stuff with production. The production quality of a lot of manga at times, and when I say production quality, I mean like the printing, is sometimes pretty crap. I mean, it's definitely, if you go to the Western graphic novels, you look at those collected editions, look at those trades. There's a new little kind of digest sized Squirrel Girl, which is smart, by the way, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the quality is great. Like the paper's good, the color is good. It's a quality printed book, way better than manga. But manga is outselling it like mad. So the lesson there is, hey, these extra costs, these extra things you're doing for the production quality, maybe they're not as big a deal. The second thing they can learn is it is ridiculously easy to tell what order you're supposed to read things in with manga compared to Western comics. Manga on the shelf can be done, spine facing out. It doesn't require the cover to be seen in order to know what's going on. They're very, very easy numbers on the spine, 1, 2, 3. They've got very clear branding. It's just all across the board. Manga is way easier to figure out what's going on than Western comics. And it's numbered. It's ordered for people who are new to it. Number 3, manga is not shy of superhero and powers and that kind of stuff as a genre. While we're seeing a lot more people talk about, are people just tired of superhero comics? Do superhero comics only appeal to older people that, are not the common buying audience for much longer? Manga is not worrying about that. As a result, you're seeing a lot of young kids, young readers coming in for superpowers. My Hero Academia is a superhero book. I mean, it's a book about superheroes. That's the entire premise of what it is. The same thing. I mean, even you could argue things like One Piece, Naruto, these kinds of books. They're not superpowers per se, but it's characters with powers having adventures. It's very much the type of book that we keep getting told nobody wants here in the West. Well, clearly there's an interest because people are just going in that direction. There's really solid recaps of books, and while simultaneously if you look at manga volumes across the board, there seems to be a lot less concern that you're going to lose people from trade to trade. It is amazing when you actually pick up trades for Western comics, how much time they spend kind of recapping, reacquainting you with the characters, making sure that, I think there's this weird belief that is founded by zero numbers or proof or evidence that people are going to wander into a bookstore and pick up like volume 4 of Miss Marvel and just start reading it. And so you're going to need to explain and take up a ton of pages explaining what's going on, who this character is, the quote unquote, the jumping on point. You'll notice that with a lot of manga, there aren't jumping on points. There's just the comic. And what happens is one of two things. Either it's written in such a way that they're just going to assume people are going to get on the train and just start going with it, or that, it kind of gives an encouragement. Hey, go back and look for the comic, look for the graphic novel. It has a 1 on the side of it. Buy that and work your way up. And that's not a bad, clearly that's not a bad strategy because it's working quite well at the moment. Overall, I think that there's, and beyond that, I just think, manga, for whatever reason, here's the most baffling part. There is not a heavy marketing engagement of manga to Western audiences. What I mean by that is you don't have a lot of, companies. Viz is doing their thing, and there's if you really search for it, and you're willing to do some translation from Japanese, you are able to see some of the customer conversations that happen with the creators or the publisher, where they're trying to get customers into the book. But overall you see way less of it. The fan engagement for manga is practically zero in the US. But by fan engagement I mean from the publisher to the fans. In many cases, Japan is pumping these things out. They've got a really loyal audience. It's being collected by Viz or by others, and they're being distributed here in the US, but there's no marketing in a lot of cases. The marketing is by word of mouth through fans. There's very little in the way of, you don't see the creators on Twitter saying, hey, don't forget about Final Order Cutoff, or, you just don't see any of that. It's just, they've got, and so, but the crazy part is the fan community the excitement. Now, definitely you have plenty of angry fans in manga fighting each other for things, but you don't have the same dynamic where there's this creators versus fans kind of nonsense. You don't have that same kind of thing. Fans fighting each other, sure, all the time, but you don't have that creators versus fans dynamic that you do for Western comics. And maybe there's a lesson there where, hey, just opt out and do none of it, and you'll be better off in some cases than where you're at today, where there's this constant kind of wanting to almost micromanage things. What's crazy is because I mentioned in one of my other videos when the Future State books launched, Andy Curry, a former DC employee, basically tweets this bit out around how this is the Future State books are a bold new audience, and it's this is what happens when creators are able to kind of do things without restrictions and everything else. And it's that what you're seeing is the first round of DC Universe stories unleashed by an editorial staff freed from the constraints of the recent past. The visions of the tremendous, talented, and truly passionate DC storytellers are on display in these Future State books. And then you get like Pete Woods, who's a creator, who writes, "These new books are exciting and courageous. Those constraints you speak of are a major reason I moved on. Curious to see how different the climate is there now, but my schedule is full for at least half a year, if not longer." And what's weird, and you just read through some of the other responses and people saying that this is a weird dialogue. Like, this is not like what does this do for fans? Does it encourage people to go buy the books? Who is he talking to? Is he talking to other creators here? Like, who's Pete Woods talking to when he says, the constraints you're talking of are why I moved on? Like, I don't know. Like, does this help get people excited about all this? I don't quite get it. And you even see some people, talking, saying, "I'm eager to read them, but I don't understand the freed from comment. What is, what are you saying exactly?" It's weird. And then before long, you see people going, "Is that why the fanboys are mad? LOL." And it's like, how is that selling any of your books? Is this battle with the fans doing anything for anyone from a sales perspective? And so as you look at manga and you see like silence where this is concerned, it's doing much better. I don't know. Food for thought. Why manga's doing much better with zero engagement in this way. And so people are taking time out of their day to go on Twitter and kind of want to say these things, and it seems to be having a detrimental effect compared to doing nothing being better. I don't know. I think there's something there. Anyway, I think that Western comics, again, as a fan, as a reader, you may absolutely despise manga. It may not be for you. That's totally fine. Everybody's doing its things, but the sales numbers don't lie, and things are very strong right now with manga. And so definitely I think Western comics has a lot of things it needs to learn. And not just the publishers, the retailers as well. There's things for everybody to learn right now based on the strength of this one business unit, how we can kind of roll it into some other audiences. You'd be crazy to ignore it. But anyway, what do you think? What things have I missed? Are there things that Western comics need to learn from manga? Do you think there's nothing to learn from manga, and that manga can go screw itself? Is that your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Like I said, leave me a comment. Follow me on social media. Whatever you care to do. Thanks for listening.